I'm going to share exactly what I would do if I wanted to score a 175 on the LSAT in February 2026 or beyond. This is the plan I wish I had back when I first studied for the LSAT. It took me an entire year to earn my 175, and at least half of that was a total waste of time. If I'd done it properly, I probably could have knocked it out in just a couple months, because ultimately, the LSAT is a test of pattern recognition. If you can spot the tricks and traps, you can avoid them. It comes down to understanding how the test makers think and seeing it from their perspective. Once you do that, everything changes. At LSAT Unplugged, we use the LASER approach to LSAT prep. LASER is an acronym standing for Learning, Accuracy, Sections, Exams, and Review. This is meant to be a counter or an antidote to students who get stuck in the endless learning mode where they watch videos, read books, they highlight things, but they never actually do anything timed. It's also a counter to those who jump straight into full timed exams without ever building a foundation. So as a result, their accuracy caps out early and their confidence tanks. And so we use the LASER approach to build day-by-day study plans for students scoring in the 140s, the 150s, the 160s, and for those chasing the 170 plus range. The first phase is L for learning. This is where you build the core understanding of what the LSAT actually tests: logical reasoning and reading comprehension. In this phase, you're not rushing or timing yourself. You're just trying to understand, how do the test makers think, what patterns show up, and what does each question type want from me? In logical reasoning, there are roughly 15 major different question types, and each one needs its own perspective. In this phase, you watch course lesson videos, you study examples, you learn the naming conventions, and you build up the basic pattern recognition. If you're studying for just 1 month, this learning phase should only take a week or two. It's roughly a third of your LSAT prep time overall. You don't need perfection here either. You just want to get the basic rules of the game down. Then in phase 2, we switch gears to accuracy, where you start focusing on drilling questions by type. You're not doing full exams yet or full sections, just question by question repetitions, because the LSAT is a pattern-based exam. If you can learn the patterns, you can get the score. So in this phase, you're drilling necessary assumption, strengthen, weaken, inference, flaw, parallel, principle, role, and so on. You drill just one question type at a time without timing pressure until your accuracy stabilizes. That's where you start seeing which traps you're falling for, and you highlight your key takeaways during your review process. And if you have only 1 month, the learning and accuracy phases together just take about 2 weeks, because you've got to ultimately switch gears to timing in phase 3, S for sections. Now you're timing at the individual section level, roughly 35 minutes per section, just like test day. It could be one logical reasoning section, one reading comp section. You do them individually, and then eventually you stack them together back to back, 2 sections to work a little bit on endurance. And again, we don't need perfection quite yet, just to get the rhythm and the pacing down. Then phase 4, we're transitioning to exams and endurance, simulating test day conditions to build up your stamina, because a 2-hour LSAT is exhausting and you want your brain to be able to hold up under pressure. And ideally, you want to do at least 10 full-length timed exams so that test day itself will be like just another run-through. And finally, phase 5 is for review. It's the most important phase, but too often neglected. You don't want to get a question wrong, look at the answer and say, oh, I get it. How could I have been so dumb? Because then the next week, you do the same thing over and over again. And so that's why we use the Socratic review method. This is a structured way of analyzing your mistakes so that you never repeat them again. The way it works is, every time you miss a question, you ask yourself, what specifically did I misunderstand? Was it a mistake in the stimulus, the question stem, or the choices? What makes the wrong answer tempting, and what ultimately makes it wrong? What makes the right answer unappealing, and what ultimately makes it correct? Because you have these traps of encouragement towards the wrong answer and traps of discouragement away from the right answer. And until you get down to the root cause, you'll end up just making the same mistake again and again. And so you want to get to the root cause of the mistake, because once you do this repeatedly, you have your score jump, not because you got faster, but because you stopped making the same mistakes again. And so you want to keep a running log of every mistake, every blind spot, every pattern, every trap you fell for, every question type you misread, and every assumption you glossed over. And that becomes your personal LSAT roadmap to get your score up into the 175 plus range. So again, laser, learning, accuracy, sections, exams, and review. That is the framework. That is the roadmap to get you to your 175 plus.